I believe that means we're live. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and welcome everyone. Good afternoon. We're going to go ahead and call to order the November 26th, 2024, 3 p.m. Canvassing Board certification meeting for the November 5th, 2024 general election. I am Canvassing Board Member Julie Wise, your elected King County Director of Elections. And with me, I have Canvassing Board Member Kimberly Frederick, our Chief Civil Deputy in the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and Stephanie Sirkovich, Chief of Staff to the King County Council. We are staffed today by Geraldine Hampton, our King County Elections Ballot Processing Manager. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed via the King County Elections Facebook page and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel after this meeting. Now we will hear from Geraldine with an overview of this election.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll give you a summary of events for our November 5th, 2024 general election. Going into the election, we projected 82% turnout from our voters. We got really close, folks. We ended up at 81%. If we look back at the 2020 general election, we made it to over 86% after projecting 90. So we're closer to our projections this election, even if we didn't hit the same numbers. Our active registered voter count right now is over 1,425,000. The ballots returned for this election was 1,155,000, close to 156,000 ballots. For Dropbox activity, we had all 84 Dropbox locations open this election, and people were excited to utilize them. Dropbox returns came in at 771,000 ballots. That ends up being 67% of our total returns. So a lot of ballots coming in at all of those Dropbox locations. The most utilized box this election, King County Elections, we actually came in #1 this time with 30,000 ballots and returns. The second place, believe it or not, going to Ballard Library at 24,000 returns. 40% of total Dropbox ballots did come in on that Monday and Tuesday of election week. So a lot of activity right around the election. Vote center activity was hopping this election. We had the Renton Vote Center opened 20 days before the general election to help voters with things like voter registration, accessible voting, and of course, getting a ballot. Then the Saturday and Monday before the election, along with election day, we opened 6 more Vote Center locations in Federal Way, Kenmore, Kent, Bellevue, Seattle at Lumen Field, and the UW. Wait, I think that's 7 more locations. Sorry. We issued nearly 25,000 ballots to voters at these locations, with nearly 14,000 being issued on election day alone. So brisk activity on election day. That's over half of those ballots being issued on election day. Our team was really busy out there at Vote Center locations. For challenges on ballots, reasons we might challenge a ballot include a missing signature, a mismatched signature on the ballot declaration. Could be that the ballot was returned too late for us to be able to count it, or perhaps the identity of the voter has not been validated. For this general election, we ended with just over 13,000 mail ballot challenges. Of those, around 10% or so were returned too late to be counted. That's actually a very small percentage of ballots that we would normally see. At certification, we have under 12,000 signature challenges remaining, which is about 1% of total returns. And 31% of voters initially challenged did in fact return a signature resolution form to help us count their ballots. So that 31% is actually a lower number than we would normally see for people sending in cure forms. At this point, I'd like to present to the board item E-4000, which is a list of 13,275 challenged ballots for rejection.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Prior election ballots and invalid ballots. Between and during every election, we regularly receive ballots from prior elections. For each piece received, we'll open the envelope to ensure the voter did not accidentally return a current election ballot in an old envelope. Fun fact, this election, we did receive a ballot from April of 2014. Interesting fun fact. There are also ballots we might need to invalidate. Reasons to invalidate a ballot include a voter potentially returning two ballots. We would count one and invalidate the other. We might invalidate if a voter claims that they did not vote that ballot. We would invalidate if a ballot is from a voter who transferred to another county or moved out of the election area. We would send that physical ballot to the new county and then invalidate the return in our election management system. Sometimes we get pieces that say moved or deceased on the envelope, and there's no voted ballot inside. In those circumstances, again, we would invalidate. At this point, I would like to present to the board item E-4001, which is a list of 1,602 prior election and invalid ballots for rejection.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to provisional ballots. We did receive 100 ballots that we treated as provisional ballots. The vast majority of those, around 90 of them, were from people who were either not registered or were canceled in our election management system. We had a handful of folks who also returned a regular mail-in ballot. Therefore, we were unable to count that secondary provisional ballot. So at this point, I'd like to present to the board item PV-8000, which is a list of 100 provisional ballots that we were unable to count for those variety of reasons.
I move that we reject the ballots on that list.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now let's talk a little bit about our amazing ballot alert program. We now have nearly 144,000 people subscribed to our ballot alerts. That's super exciting. This is up from the 83,000 that were subscribed when we were at the end of the primary election. As a reminder, these alerts are text or email notifications that our voters can opt into, and then they'll receive an alert when their ballot is mailed out to them, received by our office, signature verified, or if appropriate, there's a challenge on that ballot. We even go above and beyond and send a reminder alert the Thursday before the election, reminding folks to go ahead and cast a ballot. Voters who signed up for these alerts had a 95% turnout rate this election compared to the overall 81%, which is pretty spectacular. And an election of this size, we could never get done and complete the work without help of additional staff. We hired around 800 folks to help us out for this election in tasks such as customer service, ballot processing, data entry, and so on. So thank you to all those temporary staff that helped us get through the election. We did have really robust participation from our observer partners from the major parties, as well as the nonpartisan observer group we work with. We had 116 people go through the required 2-hour observer orientation. And for this election, we had 416 unique observer visits throughout the election cycle. If I look back at the 2020 general election, we only had 247 visits. That might also be due to a little thing like a pandemic. I don't know, but we had a lot of observers here every day throughout the process. So I'm very thankful for all of our partners who want to spend time and actually watch the process and learn about our election process. Post-election audits, I'll cover a few of them. This election, we had our second statewide random compliance check for signatures that do not match. On Monday, November 18th, the Secretary of State drew 394 signatures from across the state to audit. Of that 394 signature group, King County received 130 to audit. During our review, the supervisor and I found 3 signatures that, in our opinion, we would have accepted. So based on that, we provided feedback to the staff person who challenged those 3 ballots. And then, of course, we monitored performance for the rest of the election. This is a relatively new audit that should be and will be happening for every election going forward. Every election, we also conduct a post-election audit that's called a batch audit. This is a process where we randomly select 6 batches of ballots, which comes to approximately 1,500 ballots, and we'll do a hand count of a randomly selected contest. We then compare those hand count numbers to the tally that came out of our tabulation system to prove to ourselves that the votes are getting counted as they are expected to. Thursday of election week, we audited the state treasurer contest and found 0 discrepancies. We actually had an observer pick a number out of a basket to decide which contest to audit, and we did have 4 observers present while we went through the process of reviewing the ballots. In addition to that batch audit, we conducted our 13th risk limiting audit in King County. This audit was conducted on Tuesday, November 19th, and was in addition to the batch audit I already described. A risk limiting audit is another type of post-election review. In this case, however, we're taking a random sampling of individually voted ballots, not batches or groupings of ballots, and we're going to compare the votes on the marked ballot against the tabulated votes. The purpose of this type of post-election audit is to give us a statistical confidence that the winner is really the winner. For this election, we conducted our 3rd statewide risk limiting audit, meaning that all of the counties in Washington state participated. The contest was selected by the Secretary of State's office, and the contest ended up being Lieutenant Governor. There were 76 ballots identified statewide needing to be audited, and King County's portion was 24 ballots. We audited those 24 ballots and did not find any discrepancies. And for this risk limiting audit, we did have 2 observers present with us to go through activities. For election reconciliation, I am very happy to say we have 0 discrepancies to report. And this is now our 36th election in a row with no discrepancies. So hooray, I'm very pleased. As far as recounts, we do not have anything that is in mandatory recount range. However, the deadline for someone to request a recount with our office is on Monday, December 2nd. And then there's a little bit later of a deadline for someone to request a recount with the Secretary of State's office, which is Monday, November 9th. Looking forward, our next election is the February 11th special election and a concurrent King Conservation District election. Our first Canvas Board meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 20th at 2 p.m. And that concludes my summary of November general election activities.
So Julie, I will now read you the oath of authenticity. It reads, I solemnly swear that the unofficial returns and supporting documentation of the general election held on November 5th, 2024 in King County, state of Washington are true and correct.
I do. Our next item is the certification of the canvassing board, and it reads, the undersigned officers designated by law as constituting the canvassing board for the County of King, State of Washington, hereby certify that this is a full, true, and correct copy of the abstract of votes, including the number of registered eligible voters, cumulative results, precinct results, and report of votes cast at the general election held on November 5th, 2024 in King County, State of Washington.
I do.
I do. All right, thank you, Geraldine, so much for your amazing staffing again of another fully reconciled 36. Congratulations to you and the entire team. I'd also like to thank this King County Canvassing Board. It takes a big time commitment and is a good, healthy challenge, I think, for our brain to determine some of the creative voter intent that comes before this board. I'm also incredibly appreciative of our voters that participated in this election and all of our many, many partners that made this election possible and as smooth as it was. And that includes our jurisdictions, all 191 of them, from cities and fire districts and beyond, to our law enforcement partners that helped us with many months of preparation going into this election, and of course, over the course of election day until we get to certification day here. And our observers, our incredible observers, from the parties as well as the nonpartisan observers that came in. We couldn't do this work without you, and we're deeply appreciative for the time that you volunteered for this election. Most of all, I'd also want to say thank you to the true election heroes, which is the 800 election administrators that did a fabulous job conducting this election. I've been here for almost 25 years, and this is my 7th presidential election, and I truly have not been involved in a more smoothly run election. I couldn't be more proud and appreciative of the time commitment folks have spent away from their families in the midst of threats and challenging work. They've done just an absolutely beautiful job, and I'm so appreciative to them and to everyone that made this election possible and made it as smooth as it was. This board has certified this election. Thank you to everyone. And is there any other further business?
There's not.
I'm going to officially adjourn the November 26, 2024 certification meeting, 3:17 p.m.